Good evening, folks. It is the February meeting of the City of Lawrence Parks Board. Real quick on this Valentine's evening, can't think of a more lovely collection of people I'd like to chum around with on Valentine's Day. So hugs and kisses from the chair. Real quick, before we get started, we have some newly elected members of the Lawrence Common Council here tonight. So if you would, just stand up and introduce yourself. Putting you guys on the spot.
Hi, I'm Betty Robinson.
Yay.
Good. Zach Kramer, I represent District 5.
Thank you.
Liz Missouri, Common Council at Lawrence.
And here you go.
Welcome, everybody.
We're missing one, Miss Puckett. She is the school district's appointment to the board. Tom Burns been around on this board forever. Same with Miss Helen Taylor. She's retired from the city of Lawrence. Miss Karen Taylor, and I'm Jeff Fest. I'm the board president. Miss Dee here, and of course Eric. And real quick, Lizzie, who is the park committee for the council? Okay. And maybe be reaching out, just chat with you, because we got some monies to spend, but boy, we got some needs that we got to get taken care of too.
More money.
All right, real quick here, glad to have you on board. Work together, like I said, we got some needs to get conquered. I'll be bugging you a little bit or a lot. Real quick, thank you, Ms. D, getting the minutes out. I'd entertain a motion if there's no corrections, additions, or subtraction, the January 10 meeting minutes.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Eric, real quick, now I can see. I'll ask this right up front. When are we putting the pickleball nets up?
We'll have them up before the April 7th tournament. So
oh, okay. Got it.
We'll hold out as long as we can. We just, again, we're not sure what the weather's going to do. So
Got it.
Probably the last week of March.
A couple things, but I'll prime the pump here a little bit. As you know, there's a thing called the Eclipse events that are going to be coming up April the 8th. We're meeting now every 2 weeks to coordinate what the state of Lawrence activity is going to be. You got the state of Indiana's doing their thing. Of course, the big deal's out at IMS on 16th and Georgetown. But we got some big activities that are falling into lines. I do ask that you go to the city website to get the latest update. We got the fancy goggles in, the whole 9 yards. But for all the updates for this activity, go to the city website. Eric, real quick, the update on Oak Landing Play Park, it looks outstanding.
Yeah, I had the contractor back out yesterday. There was a few screws and caps that were missing that they didn't get installed, so they gave us some extra caps, and we approved the voucher to pay them. So, but yeah, they did a very good job. It looks very nice.
All right. Real quick, harping on this, when's the chance of cleaning up that trash from Fall Creek Little League out there? The fencing and stuff that was been torn out.
We changed vendors with our waste management, so it's now priority. We did get quotes last week, or 2 weeks ago, Dina, wasn't it? 2 weeks ago for dumpsters, so we now have a dumpster, and we actually have a purchase order in process to get dumpsters out there. So,
real quick, I know, as I was just mentioning to council, we're working on our portion of ARP monies or any of the traditional city dollars. Do you know where we're going yet with possible getting the parking lot at Community Park fixed, replaced?
I was asked by the administration to put a list of paving needs together. not only the community park, but elsewhere also. So I've, in the process of putting that together to send on to Keith Johnson and Zach Brown to find out if we're going to try to incorporate it in the art program,
Okay.
or if it's going to be another budgetary process. So
Last thing real quick, just the update, not on the longer of the two trails, but on Trail 1, when can we anticipate work beginning on it? That's the
we've got
63rd Street Trail.
we have a pre-con meeting the first week of March, and then they can let them go on it. So they've got a few utilities they've got to relocate. Most of them are AT&T, I believe, so
Okay.
it should be fairly quick. But that's on the, kind of right in the middle. So hopefully they can get started, and they can get started on the park end and then go north.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions there, gang? Hi, Ms. Bucket.
Gin Park,
Yes.
we get the neighbors satisfied with security there?
Yeah, we've had some issues out there again from what I hear with, on Nextdoor app, I believe it was, I heard something. So, we're going to have to see if we can talk to the police department to just continue to make runs back through there, on their time off. So, we talked about securing the front gate, but, unless we had an automatic gate of some sort, it just doesn't pay for it, or doesn't make much sense. So I will reach out to the police department again
Okay.
to just make sure they're aware of that.
Anything else, colleagues, gang? All right, we got one agreement to get to, but we have some administrative updates, and I just stepped on Eric. Eric, do you have anything to add? I apologize.
No, you did a pretty good job. We do have a Black History Month celebration this month, of course, and the city's doing a program at the Reset Center at 4330 Post Road on the 29th, and I'm not sure if it's a ticketed event or not.
Can you please say that one more time?
It's at the Reset Center, 4330 Post Road on the 29th.
Okay.
They have some vendors there from 6 to 7, and then a program from 7 to 8.
All right, thank you.
Isn't that church?
We discussed the Next Level Trail. That's Next Level Trail 3. The Next Level Trail 4 extension. We flushed out all the contract agreements with RGI, who's hopefully going to do and we had it on tonight's agenda, but the city attorney wants to get some additional information from our council and their attorney, just to make sure we're all doing it correctly. So hopefully next month, or maybe even sometime in a special meeting, we'll call to get that agreement in process and rolling. But it's important that we try to bid this sometime this winter or late or early spring of next year to
Gotta get in line.
Got to get in line, yeah, and there's some environmental things that we've got to check off along the creek that might take some additional time, so we want to give all the time we can. Jeff talked about the Eclipse. Glasses are available at Porter's and Saltier.
Yeah.
Game place on Pendleton Pike, so. And then we should have some available at the park also, so.
Got it. Anything else? All right. Mr. OYO, you're up. Michael, how you doing, sir?
Great, yourself?
It's called the sun. Puts me in a good mood.
So, well, when we think about February 14th, and it's a great trifecta for us. So not only is it Ash Wednesday, I see Eric has had his time in the ashes as well, but it's also the time of Valentine's Day, and it's also the Parks Board. So for OYO and the friendships that we have and the partnership we have here, it's a great trifecta for us. But it is Valentine's Day, and one of the things that we'd like to talk about a little bit is appreciation and the essentially the love that the Parks Department and the Parks Board has given us over the course of the last 50 years, really, when it comes down to it. And I've been involved with the league since 2003, and I've been part of the executive board since 2006, and it's been a very steady flow of support, engagement, encouragement, guidance at times when we've had some rough moments. And we'd like to what we would like to do at OYO tonight, considering it is Valentine's Day and you are here, is to recognize you for all your support. So I have a little something for each of you.
Oh, wow.
I'm allowed to come up.
Oh, my, yes, yes.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, thank
I
you.
don't have to report this on a 1099.
Oh, thank you.
Helen, correct?
Thank you.
Chocolates.
1875.
What my wife.
Jeff gets 2.
Thank you. I might eat this chocolate while I'm sitting here. Thank you.
I even get something. Well, thank you.
I'm sure.
All right, well, thank you. You know, if you go to page 11 of the report, it spells out OYO's timeline. Now, when I taught, I was seniors and I teach at IU. What were you doing in such and such years? So what were you doing in 1975?
Oh, wow.
I was a junior in high school.
13 years old, just a ornery. Jeez,
I don't know reveal my age, but I sure wasn't playing baseball or softball yet either.
Yeah.
I was born, so.
All right, Mr. Michael, have at it.
So yeah, let's just kind of go with page 3. So I'm going to do something a little different. Many of you have seen me over the course of the years. I've given you a lot of data, a lot of numbers. I'm going to kind of move away from some numbers. I'm going to definitely give you some numbers as well. But I kind of want to tell a story about where we are after 50 years of OYO. It's a really exciting time. This is our 50th season. We played our first season in 1975, so this will mark our 50th time that we've opened our doors at wherever park we've been at. We started at a school. We've grown into Veterans Memorial Park. But I think it's important to talk about the immediate, the recent term progress that we made, to talk about how we're scaling our organization for perhaps the next 50 years, what improvements we've made to our league and our program, give you a little perspective about how things are kind of building up and our appreciation for the history of OYO, and then the partnership that we have. I'd just like to talk about each one of those in a couple different slides. So I'm on page 4. And 2023 has been an incredible year. You see all the numbers, and every number listed there, we've given you 14 different numbers, either is in the top 3 of all times or is the best numbers that we've ever had. We have just grown through leaps and bounds. Our spring season, when you take our full-time travel and our rec league, unprecedented numbers. When you take our spring players alone, it's our 3rd highest. When you look at our fall ball, it's our highest numbers ever. Parking, as Eric knows, because he probably gets complaints about it on Sundays. No space for cars. They're all over the place. We're begging police not to ticket them. We have all-star teams for the first time in many years. We had all of our age groups covered, not only with full-time travel, but our all-stars for those that are not in that, making that commitment. We had 41 board members a year ago. Just for the record, we have 51 right now this year, and we're still looking for 2 more because we just created 2 more positions last night. 14 fields, the most we've ever had at our park. We expanded and built a new field last year on the basically the southeast side of our park. And then we had 105 registered umpires. When you hear about a lot of these programs that are saying, hey, you know what, we don't have umpires for high school sports or other things, we're defying those odds a little bit. We had 99% of our games covered last year between travel and the rec league with umpires. We had 110 sponsor companies, which is the largest we've ever had in a single season, and $62,000 of sponsorship revenue, which is what made us a profitable year. And we put $57,000 in investment in the park with improvements between a new field, new sod work, speaker and PA system improvements, and all of that is our third highest total ever. The only ones higher were when we actually built a concession stand in that time frame. 91% of our families say that they like the quality of our fields, which is up significantly from where we've been in the past. And 84% family satisfaction is among the highest we've ever had, and that was in last fall. So we believe all things are moving in the right direction, and I'm comfortable and confident to stand here tonight and say the state of OIO is in a strong position as we move into our second round of 50 years. You see our profitability on page 5. It's just we've had a lot of kind of ups and downs between 2015 and 2021, but over the last 2 years now, we've been able to establish a more profitable operation. It is really kind of the key, and we'll talk about what's making that happen. But I think the core of it is the way that we are approaching our organization and how we run it. The $30,000, almost $31,000 in profit last year is our fourth highest total, third highest if you don't take a combined 18-month period. And so really our fourth highest in that situation. So we really feel comfortable, and we feel like we have and in your packets, you see our 2023 financials and our 2024 budgets are in one of the forward-looking tabs. And we have, once again, have a profit that should look very similar to that. So one of the things that as we scale our organization, I've already talked about how we've moved from 41 to 51 board members. We're not done yet. We feel like we're going to do a major reorganization at the end of this current term. The term ends on October 31st, so when we're preparing for 2025, we're going to have a new look to our board. And what we're basically doing is we're trying to modernize it. We don't have anything on our board that's geared towards marketing. And you may say, well, you don't really need marketing. You guys are just kind of bursting through the seams. We do, because there is competition from other travel programs and other sports and other activities. We'd like to have a stronger, stable presence and not have so much turnover. 40% of our league every year is new families and 60% is retention. And we would like to drive that retention up a little bit more. In addition to that, we don't really have a technology presence on our board. And so there's lots of things that we do that probably are not really stable for us long term. We don't have a really good place for all of our resources. And so technology-wise, everything is on my laptop or my hard drive, and that's not a really good way to run a business, and OIO needs to be perceived as a business. So we have some needs there that we have to do to improve records management and how we manage all of our platforms. When we started, we had one platform. It was just our registration. That wasn't even when I started, but as I grew into OIO, and then now we have 7 different platform systems: the survey system, umpire system, registration system, QuickBooks, all of these other things. We need a process to make sure that we manage our technologies. We want to separate our financial management from our revenue generation. So we want somebody to run the treasurer role of the organization, but we want somebody else to be responsible for our fundraising and separate those functions a little bit more so it's not so much of a burden on one person. In addition to that, we want to make sure that our travel, softball and baseball have equal kind of representation. So we were making some adjustments there as well. And we really kind of want to build some of that. And then we also want to have a little better ramp up and a little better phase out in the president role. Right now, having been through this a couple times myself, in addition to being on the executive board since 2006, people kind of just hop into the role and then they disappear after the role.
Yes.
And we don't really have a ramp up and a ramp off of that situation. So we would like to build a president-elect model so that somebody is shadowing a president for a year, and then the president that steps out and the president rolls in, we have a president council role where they don't have any real formal responsibilities, but they're there in an advisory role. They don't disappear.
Your wisdom.
So it's kind of really restructuring and realigning how we do our organization. When we're done, we'll have more than 60 board positions created. And the goal there is to really do it. And among all of that, we still only have one paid person in our league that's a paid position, and that's our facilities and grounds manager. everybody else is a volunteer. Yes, concession workers and yes, umpires get paid. But in terms of people that are on a kind of a leadership capacity, there is only one person. Moving forward, what's making this all feasible for us is we're bringing in a couple concepts from the business world to be the scale of our organization. And that is really, it comes down to how can we, focusing on the Book of Good to Great by Jim Collins, we've asked our board, how can we best exemplify our why as a board member? And we challenged our board members to understand why they're doing this. And what we really want to break away from is personal gain. We don't want people on our board looking for opportunities to better whatever situation they're in. We want them to better the situation for all our families. So we've kind of really focused on that model. And then in addition to that, we've spent some time talking about Simon Sinek and his Start With Why, and what can OYO be the best in the world at? And how can we be that organization that is providing that baseball and softball experience at all levels so that the people can really kind of thrive? And we've really taken this to heart over the last 6 to 12 months, and we're continuing to build on this and continuing to understand it. They've all kind of, I would say all, about 90% of our board members have filled out some of these forms that we have. So we've really captured this, and we're continuing to build it. We've made references to this as we're continuing to move forward as an organization. And we believe this is one of the keys. Because when I started, we were about a $250,000 revenue operation. We're now over $550,000 in revenue. And we're a small business, and we have to treat ourselves like a small business and not a volunteer-run organization. So some of the improvements that we made are all geared towards sustainability. And there's really 3 areas. We've had infrastructure, expansion, and experience. The infrastructure is really important because we built a new field last year. We recognize there's open space at our park, and we want to utilize that extra open space however we believe is best for the organization long term, whether that's facilities, whether that's fields, whether that's parking, wherever that may lead us. And then we also know that our walkways and our parking lots, Jeff mentioned it earlier today, and Eric was talking about it as well, about the parking needs and the pavements, and there's certainly some needs for that at OYO. From an expansion standpoint, our rec league is booming, but we believe we still have some more room, particularly in the spring, a little bit in the fall, that way we can handle more families and ball players. And then our full-time travel program is an area where we are definitely focused on trying to build it so that we can have up to 2 teams in every age group and make that help everybody coexist in that situation. I will come back and talk about an indoor facility in a little bit because that's probably a larger discussion for how we might want to proceed. From an experience standpoint, we'll talk about this on the next slide, I believe. But our rec team balance, we saw the highs and the lows last year. There's one area where we kind of hit the peak and then really dropped off. All in one year, it was our rec team balance. It's the balance of teams and how we can do it. Our community support, our volunteer engagement have really been key to what we've been trying to do. But on page 9, you can see in 2023, in the spring, green is great news. That means people are saying excellent or very good in our survey in terms of team balance. And we were all the way up to 48%. Our goal has always been 50% because bottom line is we know that if you don't win the championship, people don't think you're on the best team, and then all of a sudden. So we've always kind of set a goal of about 50%, and then maybe more like 80% between that and the middle, and 20% are probably not really happy because they were lost first in the tournament. But on the flip side, fall went way down, 32%. So we've done some soul searching, we've done some analysis, and what we found here was we had a lot of players signing up that were travel kids, that were really good ball players, and then, oh, I made a travel team, or I found out my travel team's playing somewhere else. After the teams are set, they leave, and it threw the balance way off. And you can see the score. It's our second lowest score, almost essentially the lowest score that we had in the last 4 or 5 years. So we've made some, taken some precautions, taken some steps to prevent this going forward, that basically, once we put our rosters together, that if people ask for refunds, we're going to deny them. So they could slow down their registration process because they want to secure a spot as a hold a spot, but then they're willing to give it up and there's no penalty. Now we want them to think twice before they, hey, I'm going to take a spot in July, but I'm going to give it up on August 10th. That's going to cost them. We have to do something to hold people accountable because the experience that the rest of the families that stayed, which were 795 players and their families, felt the pain of that when they were on very imbalanced teams. And unfortunately, we had scores that were 20-2 in several games and several divisions because they just didn't have the horses to compete. Moving on to 10, in terms of improvements, we also made some significant improvements in the park, but they're only feasible because of the investments that we get from our community. We had a tremendous sponsorship committee last year that worked really hard and brought in nearly 120 sponsors and $62,000 of revenue. And that was really a key. Without that money, we're facing a $30,000 loss. So the sponsorship program has really become a key part of where we are as an organization. And it's no accident as you look at the trend lately of our sponsorships and you look at our profitability, there's definitely, the coincidence is real. Jeff mentioned on page 11 our timeline, and I can give you a pretty good perspective on the timeline from about 2001 on. I'm trying to build up the past. One of the things I have a question here for either Dina or Eric, not sure quite exactly how far back you're going with OIO, but is there anything on record or file that can show the presidents of OIO, because I know them all from about 2000 on, but who might have been president in the previous 25 years?
We can look.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's a missing piece of our history that we don't have, and we'd love to have that.
No, David Bly was there, mid-'80s probably. Jim Schultz.
Right,
and
forever.
So, yeah, we'll look.
If you could look for that, that'd be awesome. This just gives you an idea of our progress. There are a couple blemishes on this timeline. We had some unfortunate fraudulent activities that have happened.
Shenanigans.
We can't overlook those because those are valuable dollars that were taken from our organization. But with that said, there's many, many positive things. And like with every story and every marriage between the city and organizations, and it's the same situation here. We've been blessed by having a tremendous rallying cry from the Parks Board and the Parks Department. But we would not be able to have accomplished these things without that partnership and that alignment. So one of the things we're doing is celebrating 50 years. And we're doing it all year. And we invite and encourage all of you to come and join us on opening day, April 13th, maybe even walk in the parade with us. We'd like to be able to recognize the Parks Department and the board for what they've been able to accomplish. So if you can reserve that date, about 9 a.m. at Oaklandon Elementary, and we walk. If you don't want to walk, but you'd like to be present, we get to the park about 9:45, 10 o'clock, and we look forward to it. We do have a number of things that are planned on opening day that will be festive. It's going to be a little bit more of a carnival-like experience than usual on opening day, but we will also play games. We'll also do all the traditional things. We're planning 2 50-day celebrations, just like they do in school. They celebrate the 100 days. We're doing the 50 days of OIO. So in the spring, it'll be on June 1st, and on September 29th, it kind of rallies around that 50-day mark for fall ball, and we will be doing special events on those days as well. We are trying to formalize, part of the reason why I'd like to know some of the past presidents as well, but an alumni kickball tournament. We've got kids who once played that are now professionals, and they're responding to some of the things that they're seeing, like, hey, I played there. So we've thought about what a better way to get them back on the field and do it in a fun way of having a kickball tournament where it's mostly adults. It will be adults 18 and older, but kids that have come through the league want to come back and say, hey, I remember being on field 2 hitting home runs. Well, now they have a chance to kick a ball and see how many bases they can run. So we will be doing that at some point this spring, summer or fall. And then we'd like to recognize our history throughout the course of the year. One other thing that's really made OIO strong over the years is the partnerships. And first and foremost is the partnership we have with the Parks Department. Obviously, the Parks Department made OIO possible with the programs that we've been able to put together. But in addition to that, there are functions in our league that have been really steady with us over the years. Trophies, we've been working with Crown Trophies since 2003. We've been working with our uniform vendor since 2007. We've been working with our photographers since 2008, our insurance company since 2010. So when we have the kind of turnover across the board that we do, yes, I know I'm a grandfather in this whole situation, but everybody else is kind of in a turnover role of 2 to 4 years is most of what we get at the most from our board members. These folks have been able to stay with us. Hey, you may not want to do that because in 2017, when the league tried to do that, they kind of become our ambassadors and they're looking out for us in our best interest. Or they'll call us and say, hey, don't forget you guys got a tournament in about 4 weeks and you haven't ordered your trophies. they're looking out to help us as much as we look out to be a partner for them. So last but not least is our partnership. A couple years ago, in actually beginning of 2022, we came up with a new 10-year agreement with the city. There were a couple items in that agreement that are still outstanding. We're still working on things on our end as well, but the paving and the resurfacing is certainly one of them. The walkway, we have the parking lots, but we also have one gravel pathway that we'd like to get, and then there's another one behind Field 6 that we would love to have paved as well. That would all be great if we can kind of work all of that. And then if we need more parking, there's been discussions I know that Eric and I have had, and Eric has had with Jeff Sparks, who's at our park, and others, about maybe using some of that grass area along 62nd Street to create more parking as well for us. So there are some opportunities. And then we also, while we continue to take care of the fields, and we were blessed with a really dry fall, but stormwater drainage is still a concern that when we do get heavy rains that we still do see a backup. So if there's anything that can continue to be focused on in those areas. But the other piece of this is I said I'd come back and talk about an indoor facility.
Right.
And I'd like to toss out a idea and a concept and maybe see if the Parks Board or Parks Department would like to kind of help usher in this concept for discussion at this point. And perhaps we have 3 youth organizations that serve in the Lawrence communities. There's Fall Creek, there's Giles Test, and there's OIO. And we're all kind of looking for ways to get some kind of off-season indoor premises for what we can create. Is there a way that organizations can come together instead of necessarily compete, because I know we compete for players in the seasons, but can we come together with some kind of city support, say, hey, let's construct one facility that can be serviced by all of these, proportionate based on the size of the organizations or something of that nature. And instead of everybody trying to do their own thing, can we come together and say, these organizations and these ball players can better serve, while OIO's doing 1,900 players and 1,200 families, collectively 3,000 players and 1,700 or 1,800 families, can we build something that it's not going to be an overnight proposition or development, but maybe with collaboration in the city and cooperation, it avoids any organization taking on a risk that's too big. And there's a lot of desire at OIO to build our own facility, but candidly, you see our finances. We're at about $145,000 in the bank, and it is not prudent for us to take on a $500,000 building or more to try to cater to a certain or number of audiences within our league. We don't want to default on it. We don't want to turn that over to the city. So that's the idea that I'd like to propose. I've got a couple more years on the board. Then I probably will retire. But I say that all the time, don't I? But I'm always back. But with that said, I would love to be part of helping usher in some of those conversations with multiple organizations, and then maybe even construct a facility in such a way that serves other sports outside of the spring or the winter for the indoor sports. And so maybe there's something there. I'm just trying to say, is there obviously a new administration, new times? Is there something that we can work together to achieve for the best?
Speaking strictly for myself, I, for a long time, have always thought we need to have one umbrella for, I'll call it Lawrence Township baseball. We're cannibalizing ourselves. We were able to, it wasn't easy, we were able to get Lawrence youth football back under one umbrella. The issue, and I don't think there would be anybody who can't say that would be nice that we would be able to build this facility. Now, from a city of Lawrence standpoint, is the city's ability to financially jump in and support. We would jump in with land to put it on, personally speaking from here. The stumbling block is, and I went immediately to the back, and it's always fascinating to see where the kids come from that play. And, we don't differentiate anymore on fees if you're a Lawrence resident or you're not a Lawrence resident. And
26 and 27.
the big question, my big drum that I beat all the time, it's awfully hard for me to ask City of Lawrence folks to dig deeper on parks because they pay 6 figures a year to Indianapolis. I mean, we subsidize the city of Indianapolis youth sports something fierce. The only things their parents or the kids pay for is to participate, but paying for the upkeep of these facilities, Lawrence residents are carrying that burden and the burden of Indianapolis sending money to there too. I would not have a problem if the 3 organizations could work out an agreement with the city to develop a financial plan to build it.
There are any introductions that are necessary to help us start that, I'm happy to be part of those conversations.
I think the early ones is the presidents of their league and probably their primary benefactors need to powwow.
Makes sense.
So, any questions? Eric, I only have one. Just for the record, what services does the city provide the baseball league while they're in season? Now, we provide the facility, but what services does the city do during season?
We mow once a week. Sometimes we mow twice a week on the infields or the fields themselves. We pay utilities, both electric and water, sewer. And of course, any maintenance aspects that are outside the, although OYO does a vast majority of them themselves.
That's why I was flipping for the record and for our new council folks, directly what services during the season does OYO perform on that facility?
We do all of our, so what we take care of is all the fertilizing of the fields and things of that nature. We maintain the fields throughout. We will do any fence working repairs that are needed. 14 fields, kids running into things all the time, so that often requires some work. It's just the basic the day-to-day maintenance of everything around.
Green Bay prep from lining, marking, and
we do all the chalking, all the paint, line painting, everything that needs to happen between the fields we take care of.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions, Mr. Tom?
I know it's too small for what you're talking about, but what's the status of the indoor facility at Lee Road?
We've always included that in with the Fall Creek softball and baseball's contract. I'm not even sure if anybody used it much last year, so that might be a discussion to get into for a stopgap until something more permanent can be. Yeah. And I know OYO is always paid. Do you guys still go to Round Trippers, or is there such a thing?
We go to Underwood Academy up on Pendleton Pike.
Yeah.
So they're paying an outside vendor for something they could actually do in a facility that.
For perspective on that, we have we pay $15,000 to run our winter workouts on 1 day a week for 10 weeks. So it's basically $1,500 a Saturday, and that runs 7 different sessions from about 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then we also have our 12 full-time travel teams, and they're all paying anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 on rental spaces. So we're somewhere in the neighborhood of $28,000 to $35,000 on fees that travel teams are collectively paying for academy, either Underwood Academy or 84 Yard up in Greenfield. So we're just saying right now we know we're spending $50,000 a year between our teams or our organization, but even that is not always reliable. We don't want to go in to say, hey, well, we can always take this $50,000 and repurpose it. What if the teams don't show up? What if the players don't? It's a risk that's too big for OYO. We just don't have the assets to back a $500,000 facility construction. And that's what we see as an entry point. I know others will probably say they see it at $200,000. I'm not sure what we're building for that, to be honest. Concrete floors alone are going to cost that much just to get that base in. Not to mention steel is costing a lot more than it ever costs.
Are you familiar with the one at Lee Road?
I'm familiar with the one at Lee Road a little bit. I've never been inside of it. I just know the facility. I know Cathedral used it for a number of years, or maybe they actually originally constructed it.
was,
but,
yeah.
But with that, I'm a little bit familiar with that. I think what we're looking for is maybe something a little bigger because of the size of our league. So because we try to think about something like that, how many teams can fit in, and there is a desire to have a little more than just a hitting lane type of concept. When we go to Underwood Academy, he's got a 60 by 60 field that he can utilize. So that's really changed the game. And that's certainly a stopgap measure for us as well. If there's something that we can work towards, it's not going to be for the current generation of travel teams, at least not the ones that are 12 and older. But maybe for those that are 7 or 8 years old, by the time they're done, maybe there's going to be something available for them. I'm looking long-term, long beyond me.
Thank you. And as always, you've screwed up in reverse again, and you're president by acclamation, brother.
I've got this year, and I got at least one more year. We'll see
You
what
say
happens
that.
after that.
Famous last words. I've been
Wife
getting
is
out
ready
of
for me
coaching
to-
for the last 10 years. So,
Well, any other questions I can answer?
nope, keep up good work.
All right, well, thank you. We're glad to be here.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Beckett. All right, we do have one formal agreement, Eric. This is the Indiana Untapped Mobile Stage Agreement with the Tipton Pork Festival, correct?
It's a downtown Tipton program. The Parks Department's done it. This will be the 4th year that they've rented so that in essence they rent the stage from us. It's $1,200 is what they pay. I won't be going this year, but 2 of our guys will go up, set the stage up. They have a sound tech that does all their sounds, so we're just there to set the stage up and then tear it down. It takes our guys, it's about an 8-hour day for them, pretty much in and out. It's so again, it's
Nothing major.
nothing major, yeah.
What's the date on that?
June the 8th.
Okay. Any other questions? What do we charge them?
It's $1,200.
Oh, okay. And that's and the guys get their normal either overtime or.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Anything else? All right. Seeing none, I would enter into an agreement with Indiana on Tap mobile stage agreement with the Parks Department.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And tell our guys stay out of trouble.
I might ask you also, last year we did it, and I'm not I think we did it on a resolution form, but the Lawrence Township Foundation Gala, last year we provided a donation of a shelter rental.
Yeah.
And we would like to do that again this year, so if we could just have that in some sort of a resolution of approval, so.
Entertained, we have a motion on the floor here, added, City of Lawrence Parks Department providing one shelter rental for the Lawrence Township Foundation Gala.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go. It's hard to say no, something like that. Anything else?
That's all I've got.
Public? Oh, come on. Your chance to yell at us. Being none, go out and hug someone.
All right.